not too long ago, we did one of these skill reviews, and in fact, there's a video where I showed you and I made all of these marks on this particular sheet. The first thing I want to do is go through and show you the correct answers on this one, because the next one will expect you to use those same skills, but I'm not going to show you the setup on that one. You will have to figure that out yourself. So here we go with the answers. I had this set up. The decimal in 20 is right here, lined up with the decimal in 4.637, 4 and 637 thousandths. 10 take away 7, because I had to borrow, was 3. 9 take away 3 was 6. 9 take away 6 is 3. I'd better slow down and think a little bit more, huh? 9 take away 4 is 5. 1 take away nothing is 1. Again, lined up the decimals, put a placeholder where it was needed after the 5, borrowed so that I can say 10 take away 2 is 8, 4 take away 1 is 3, 3 take away 4, I cannot do that, can't borrow from the 0. I'm going to borrow from this as if it's 10 and turn it into 9 right away. 13 take away 4 then is 9. 9 take away nothing is 9. 8 tenths plus 1 and 4/5. Again, line up the decimals, put a placeholder. 0 plus 5 is 5. 8 plus 4 is 12. Bring the decimal into the answer. 1 plus 1 is 2. 7 times 0.6. Well, 7 times 6 is 56. Doink the decimal once. Answer is 5.6. Now from here I'm going to go back a little bit, and remember I asked for your final answers to be right beside the number of the problem. So yes, you show me all of your work, but then the final answer goes out here so that it is easier for me to see and score, and it also lets me know if you're paying attention to putting the decimal where it belongs. 4.2, 4 and 2 tenths divided by, so the 7 is on the outside. 7 is already a whole number, so I just bring the decimal straight up. Nothing times 7 gives me 4. Bring down the 2. 6 times 7 is 42. You'll notice 4.2 divided by 7, oopsies, problem, right? This is a good example of how doing the opposite operation helps you check your work. 4 and 2 tenths divided by 7 is 6 tenths. That showed me 7 times 6 tenths should come out to be 4 and 2 tenths, and I told you it was 56. My multiplication was wrong, wasn't it? So you can use the opposite operation even when there are decimals involved to double check yourself. Now this is 6 tenths, but this says 0 and 6 tenths. Isn't that the same amount? Sure. The next problem now. When you multiply and there are decimals, am I adding? No. Am I subtracting? No. So I do not line up the decimals, but I do put the one with the most digits on top, because if this was just a 2, 3, 1 times 1, 6, this is exactly how I would write it. I need to include the decimals so that I can count up at the end and doink. 6 times 1 is 6. 3 times 6 is 18. Carry the 1. 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13. 0. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 3 is 3. And 2 times 1 is 2. I have multiplied everything on top times the 6, everything on top times the 1, and I have the placeholder. So now I just add 6, 9, 6, 3, 1, 2, 3 digits after a decimal. 1, 2, 3 places need to be after the decimal in the answer. 3 and 696 thousandths. I got you well started on this division problem. Reminded you that if there is a decimal in the divisor out here on the outside, you need to move the decimal so it's close to the little guy hanging here so he can play soccer with it. However many times, spaces, places that you had to move the decimal to make a whole number in the divisor, you also move the decimal that many places in the dividend, bring it straight up, and be sure it's in your answer. Then you can look and say, I don't need to divide by my whole number zeros, but I do need to say 2 times what equals 1 without going over. That's a 0. 0 times 2 is 0. 1. When I subtract, bring down the 8. Now I say 2 times 9 gives me that 18. Subtract, that's a 0. Bring down the 5. 2 times what comes close to 5 without going over? That's 2 times 2. 2 times 2 is 4. Subtract, get a 1. When I spoke with you about this before, I reminded you, you cannot have a remainder and a decimal. You must continue dividing. In this case, just by putting one more 0 after that decimal will allow us to finish up. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Your final answer here, 0 tenths, 9 hundredths, 2 thousandths, 5 10,000ths. Order of operations we didn't have a chance to do, so I showed you the entire thing, which means I'll switch over to today's and remind you parentheses always come first, parentheses, then exponents. Well, there's an exponent inside the parentheses, so that I must do without going any further. 5 squared, the flying 2, tells me I will have some number 2 times. It's going to be multiplied, though, not added. What number is multiplied twice? It's a 5. So I must do this step first. 5 times 5 is 25. That 25 substitutes for the 5 squared, minus 4 inside the parentheses, then divide by 2. 25 minus 4 is 21. Divided by 2, well, off to the side, 21. Divide by 2. 1 times 2 is 2. Bring down the 1. 0 times 2 is 1. Get a 1. I could record this a couple of ways. I could call this 10 and 1 half. I could call this 10 remainder 1. Or I could go on and say, well, what if I do a decimal? Put my 0 after the decimal. I know 2 times 5 equals 10. So another possible answer would be 10 and 5 tenths. We've talked before. 5 tenths is equal to 1 half. It is another way of showing 1 half. So that is what you want for number 8. For number 9. Parentheses with an exponent. This time I need 4 blanks. 1, 2, 3, 4. Multiplying, not adding. What goes in the blank? 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. That takes care of 2 to the 4th power. 16 minus 7 will then be divided by 3. 16 minus 7, since it's in the parentheses, has to be done first. 16 minus 7 is a 9. That leaves me with only one more operation to do, which is divided by 3. 9 divided by 3 does not even need to be done long division. Your final answer is 3. the expression that matches this statement. Subtract 5 from. So we can't start with taking away 5. We have to start with 29 squared. 29, to square it, we put the flying 2. That means 29 times itself twice. When we have that answer, we subtract 5 from it. The word then tells me I must do this first, so I'll put it in parentheses. The last thing I need to do is divide it by 3. Now, I could also have written the divided by sign, but that works. Number 11. 16 less than 32, then means this has to be in parentheses. 16 less than 32, is that 16 minus 32? No, that answer would be 32 less than 16. So I need to start with 32, take 16 away from it. That would tell me what 16 less than 32 is. Then, my parentheses, divide that answer by 4. Make sure that you have those items just like that. Number 12 and 13 here, number 10 and 11 back here. You need to, when you are switching a fraction into a decimal, you always take the top number, which is, let me use a different color now, the top number, divide it by the bottom number. So 2 divided by 20. Here the top number was 3, so 3 divided by 6. Neither one of these was able to go in a whole time, and so 0 times 20 is 2. Subtract the 2, bring down the 0. Now I have 1 times 20 is 20. The decimal is 1/10. 3/6 as a decimal. 0 times 6 is 0. So when you subtract, that's a 3. You bring down this 0. 5 times 6 gives you exactly 30. This means 3/6 is equal to 5/10. We've talked a lot that the decimal 5 means 1/2. Does this make sense with the fraction? If you have a pizza that was split into 6 pieces and only 3 of the 6 pieces are left, don't you have half of the pizza left? So 3/6 is the same as 1/2, which is shown with 5/10 as a decimal. You should have the answers here to 8, 9, 10, and 11. Copy those down as I gave them to you. 12 and 13, top number divided by bottom number will give you a decimal. 1 through 7 here look very much like 1 through 7 over here as far as the skills you are using. And yes, I still do want you to write your final answers next to the number here today so it's easier for me to find. That is one of your graded assignments. This one is review. The other one will be new.